sending a child to a corner or a spot and saying, just sit there for 5 minutes or 1 minute for however old you are, well, that's great in maybe a school setting because it gives everybody in the situation a chance to just relax for a minute, right? Or just get away from the situation. But that doesn't really correct the wrongdoing. And that's the problem with just sending our kiddos into a corner for a few minutes. So at home, when we practice timeout, the whole purpose of that timeout should be so that our kiddos have a chance to think about how they could have handled the situation better, problem solve, and then come back and make a few things right. So what I want to share with you is just a few pieces of those steps that if we know as moms, we can teach our kiddos so that they know what they're supposed to do when they get in that timeout. So, number one, when our kiddos go into timeout, we should be able to see them. Because if we can't see our kids, in all likelihood, if they're a child that likes to be alone, well, they're not thinking about what they've done wrong at all, and they're going to find ways to play, to occupy themselves, and just wait for that time to, for them to pay their penance and get back out to fun again, right? So they should be somewhere where we can see them, but they shouldn't have an audience. Our kiddos they're so fragile, and they have big egos, right? Who doesn't? So sometimes when they're being corrected, they're more concerned about what their peers think or their sibling thinks, like who's watching me and how do I maintain my ego in this thing? Or they want to blame somebody else for the wrongdoing. And so by removing them from an audience, we eliminate all of that. Now we can focus on what did you do wrong? Right? That's a great question to ask our kiddos when they've been involved in some sort of a conflict, because they often want to play victim, right? Victim mentality. And in any conflict, there's always two people involved. And we all have to own up to something we probably could have done better or different to keep these situations from escalating. So there are just 2 of about 5 steps of doing timeout the right way to end up where we want to be at the end of the correction, which is a closer relationship, a correction that will continue on the next time our kiddos are in that situation. So in conclusion, make sure that when we remove our kiddo from the situation, they go somewhere for their timeout where we can still see them to make sure they haven't completely disconnected from the situation and distracted themselves, right? That's not serving a purpose. That's number 1. And number 2 is that they don't have an audience. We don't want our kiddos thinking more about what somebody else thinking, what another person did wrong. We want them to be able to start reflecting on their own behavior and say, okay, how did I contribute to this situation? What could I have done differently, personally, to avoid the conflict going where it was?